Look at us. Is it that time already?
It is that
Woo! Welcome. We're streaming. We're streaming live and we are on AOC.
Yup.
Okay, hello. Welcome to Higher Thought. You might notice that Mobe looks a lot prettier this. No, it's not really Mo. Welcome to, we got Savvy on the show.
Savvy, Savannah, hey you, girl.
Savvy
Whatever.
and Nayday here, hosting Higher Thought on the May 30th edition. We got notes, don't we?
Got a little bit of notes.
We got some notes, we got some jokes. We got good stuff, as always.
Beauty.
So, yeah. And this is your first time doing the show.
First time on television, y'all.
First time on television.
So, hey,
we
Brad
want to
Pitt.
welcome you. Yeah, just
well,
take it all in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's on your mind, Acadiana? Woo! Yeah, we've got Jacob in the house, holding things down. Tonight they got a big revivalist show downtown.
Yep.
Yeah, and you were also
Music.
mentioning your friends are playing at the Dat Dog.
Yep, if you asked me the name, I probably couldn't tell you though. But it's that dog.
It's kind of like a
later
folk,
tonight.
acoustic
Yeah,
kind of...
indie pop, rock, folk, singer-songwriter stuff. They have a keyboard. I think they just wing it.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be good.
Kind of like we do on this show.
I guess so. Man, I don't know any other way.
Well, they're spicy wings, though. They're spicy wings. You know, and like we dip it in the sauce. you know.
Sauce?
The blue cheese.
Yeah, the blue cheese.
That's
Lots of cheesiness.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of white sauce.
Ah!
You know?
Dude, that's that Louisiana humor, eh?
Yeah. Well, we got a lot of that on Higher Thought, and we love to always hear your thoughts as well, Acadiana, because we know they're, really high. Just like
me.
ours, right? And by that, of course, we're talking about higher education,
Obviously, yes. Go to college, y'all. Go to college.
You got it. Which, of course, like we have similar occupations.
Similar indeed.
We work with the young ones, trying to make them better people. How was your experience this year with that?
It pretty sucked a lot of the time, but fulfilling. And I came up with this saying, the harder it is, the more that you're needed. And I'll explain that because unlike Mr. Nayday here, I was a substitute teacher. So I'm the person that comes in for a day and all the kids look and point and laugh and be like, haha, let's take advantage of her.
Surely.
So.
And I was in a similar situation my first year as well. Okay. Basically where I was taking over for somebody mid-year and no control over the classroom.
Nope. First time doing anything with kids. So,
Sure.
I'm not a parent. I don't know how to discipline. I want to hang out and,
Well,
talk trash and do whatever.
Well, and teachers have to be almost friends, parents, game show hosts, disciplinarians, the whole nine, So, but you only get better as you go, and
Fingers crossed.
And I mean, I think sometimes just with the positive attitude, kind of you tend to have, which of course. Would I let somebody without that higher thought and positive attitude co-host a show? No, of course not.
Depends how desperate you are, but...
First choice, y'all. First choice.
Beautiful.
But we've got a lot of topics to cover. You've even got some stuff prepared. And if worse come to worse and we need to fill some more time, we've even got some questions for couples. We're getting to know each other, so I'm sure some of them could be relevant.
Good for anybody.
Well, and they've got different topics such as, relationship, past, relationships, emotions and dreams.
Goals and
fantasies. Life experience and beliefs, memories, sex, and then I guess
birds and bees. Beautiful.
Yeah. So let me just scroll to a middle page and ask you a question.
Oh, we're just going to jump right into those ones. Okay, then.
Well, this is kind of appropriate. If you had to teach a class on any topic, what would you prepare a lecture on?
Oh, that's a really good one.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one. I would have to say feminism, to be honest. And not neo-crazy stuff, but just equality. Overall equality. And how there can be different forms of equality. And I guess I wouldn't focus on feminism/sexism, but I think that that's the fundamental basis of a lot of other forms of equality that we experience. Inequality is from us and them. That's how we see it. And I think that that's ingrained into
So do you feel as though that it is not equal opportunity for women as it is for men in this country?
Opportunity, maybe not. I think that can be relatively equal.
Mm-hmm.
As far as perhaps, I guess you could still say opportunity later in life. I think that as you get older as a woman, typically your, array of opportunity may not be what men can receive.
Sure.
I don't know.
Well, and I mean, like, recent studies have kind of shown that, like, technically, yes, women make like less on the dollar than men do in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
However, women need more time off due
Mm-hmm.
to having babies and taking time off for maternity leave.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, in that regard, they are relatively equal.
Right.
In the pay range, but I mean, like, women can't help it; they're the ones that have to go.
Right.
Which actually, there is technology now to where maybe one day men might be having the babies. Just kind of like that old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, like where it was like he was preggy and stuff. I don't remember the name. It was a really
I love
bad
it already.
movie. It was a really bad movie. So you just scroll to a random page and ask me one.
Jeez.
Let's see here.
Okay. Have you ever learned significant lessons or come to conclusions about your life based on dreams that you've had? So do your dreams carry any weight to them?
Well, I will say that it's hard to remember the dreams unless, like, I try to focus on them as soon as I wake up.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I definitely, like, am the type of person that, like, feels dreams like, oh my gosh, like, that was a significant dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, my mom is, like, she's a hardcore dreamer, and, like, her dreams are very real to her, I think I kind of almost got some of that from her, to a certain degree.
Yeah. Do you ever have, like, deja vu?
Definitely.
Where you have the deja vu and you're like, I dreamed this. I know that I dreamed this.
I had a dream, I remember when I was young, and it was, like, basically of, like, this, like, destruction of the earth and, like, this apocalypse kind of thing. And
so it was a good dream.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, but it definitely stuck with me.
Okay. Did you just read Revelations before this?
Possibly so. I grew up in Alexandria, like, to a certain degree when I was younger, and I went to the Pentecostals of Alexandria where they're running around
Did you
talking
speak in
tongues. I'd never personally spoken tongues, but, like, one time I was having, like, a little spiritual moment. And, they all came around me and were trying to get me to talk in tongues, but I just wasn't ready for it.
Wow, I didn't know by asking that question I would learn that you were once a Pentecostal.
Well,
anyway,
I grew up Pentecostal,
noted.
which, by the way, like, the church, like, runs Alexandria almost. It has, like,
Louisiana.
3,000 people that go to it, and the band was phenomenal. And ultimately, the reason why my brother became a professional musician is because he was inspired that much by, like, their bass player, like, sick. Like, they won, like, Grammys and shit. And had, like, Bill Clinton come, like, when he was the president, to one of their Messiah plays. It was big deal.
Wow.
And I'm sure a lot of people in Acadiana know about the Pentecostals of Alexandria. It's hardcore.
It sounds pretty reptilian, but...
Well, who knows?
I'm afraid to say that.
But that's how I grew up, and, like, and the preacher preached a lot of revelations, and, so, I mean, that's just kind of part of me, I guess.
Man, that's why you're afraid of the apocalypse?
I'm not afraid of the apocalypse.
Mm-mm.
I mean, like, if anything, like, we talk a lot of prep for the apocalypse.
Oh, so you're a prepper one.
I'm not necessarily even a prepper. I don't have, like, beans stored for days,
Man, in Oregon, we have a magazine. There's actually 2 or 3 magazines that are just doomsday preppers and everything that you need to do to prepare. Bunkers, storage food, how to grow your own vegetables, underground caverns, the whole 9 yards. But...
Well, I mean, I think it would be good to be prepared for some type of cataclysmic event that, maybe the, computers go offline or the, stores aren't able to stock food on the shelves,
Like, I'm an optimist, but there
We're
might be...
totally dependent on the system.
There's something may happen in our life. I don't know. I'm optimistic. I think we can overcome it, but something's going to change. We'll see how she blows.
Right.
Yeah.
And, we'll see how he comes.
Yeah.
I mean, I figured we'll just give that one there. We'll give it there to loosen up the mood,
Yeah, when he comes, we'll
So,
be ready.
we've already done 10 minutes of the show. And that's how quick time moves when you're having fun.
When you're having fun.
We haven't even started our little
nervous.
news feed that we got here, which, of course, just as a reminder, folks, Higher thought can be TVMA sometimes. We don't necessarily try to express our opinions. Sometimes we run through the news and we kind of debate different topics. And, ultimately we like to get all opinions out there. That way you can kind of make a decision for yourself.
Right. I like to play devil's advocate purely for the sake of it.
I have to do that all the time on the show. And, last week I had to make a rebuttal on, how I'm not necessarily like a Donald Trump supporter. I just support him because he's our president. And I want our president and our country to succeed. But ultimately when it comes to Democrat, Republican, like I tend to not be far left, far right, more... neither
Party.
in both. In both. Well, if anything, more libertarian.
Oh, Louisiana. Yep, that'll do it.
Well, less government. Less federal government, please.
Yeah.
We don't...
You like roads, right? You like schools. You like hospitals. A lot of that is big government stuff.
You can
you
do
need
it
'em to a
without
certain
the
extent.
federal government. You can do all that stuff without the federal government. The federal government is a bureaucracy that wastes your money.
But think about then, California would be set up incredibly well, and we would probably be the richest. That New York would be the richest state in the country, and without help from states, without the help of rich states, then places like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama would be even a little bit economically, educationally worse off than they are already.
Well, sure. Well, and I guess Louisiana has a history of kind of backhanded politicians that tend to.
I hear corruption's bad.
We've got a history of it apparently, But I guess we can go ahead and run through some of the news topics. But if you hear anything that inspires you to want to call in, sometimes we have some callers that let's see, we can make sure the volume's all turned up. There it is. There it is.
Are these the mics?
These are. So it's 366-8951, and then I believe you press 1. You don't pound the deuce. You would simply just press 1.
Beautiful. Thank you for explaining that so thoroughly.
Well, we know that people are just getting home from work and washing the dishes, maybe taking their afternoon poop. Cooking some dinner.
Way to consider those people. I'm glad that they don't get left out.
And we're on in the background, and we're like, hey, turn us up, or maybe you're watching us on replay, and it's already June,
Maybe.
So
welcome to the past.
Welcome to the past. But if so, then check us out next week's show.
Same time, same place.
Same time, same place. So the U.S. is apparently rebranding fossil fuels as molecules of freedom or freedom gas. That almost seems like a George W. Bush kind of thing,
Dude, you have to explain it to me
America.
a little bit. Explain to me what part of it is free. Is it free? Really?
Freedom. I don't know. I mean,
does it give freedom?
Is that just to trick us into let's go invade countries to steal their oil kind of thing?
Let's make them free. Let's liberate the fossil
liberate
fuels.
their gas, right?
I've been there, done that, right?
Yeah, and one of the things that you were mentioning, and we can kind of segue right into your story of as far as how much we spend on military spending, and you were trying to kind of get a breakdown of what our actual budget goes towards. I mean, usually it's about $3 trillion a year.
Yeah,
that we're spending.
So how people like to say, I don't know dollar-wise. I don't know how much our taxes go every year, but what people like to say is we spend half of our budget on military, and that is true only with the discretionary budget, which is basically takes away all of the money that goes to social services or Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, low-income health care overall.
And a lot of people say though that Social Security is almost running out, that it'll be empty by in the next 20 years or whatnot.
I mean,
I'm not an expert on the matter, but
who knows?
But there are more elderly people that are retiring than ever before in human history, because we've got the baby boomer generation that are all retiring now, and they need their Social Security, so it's.
I mean, the thing is, this is why it's not included in the discretionary budget, because that money is technically still our money. They're holding on to it for us. So that's why they take it out of discretionary budget, because they don't even count that as part of the government's budget, because it was just on hold. So it's not a part of the budget that we can spend money on, so to speak, because it's already ours.
Truly.
So unless we have full I don't want to get too crazy, but like unless their government actually breaks down, I think they'll always keep it in their mentality that like that money is our money already and not their money to loan out or spend or whatnot. So.
Well, and a lot of the budget goes off to paying the debt as well. I mean, we're $22 trillion in debt.
That was 7%. No, not even paying off the debt, just paying the interest.
The interest on the debt,
the
right?
Debt's still there. It's
well, the debt is like basically a lot of our tax dollars go to that. I mean, basically the IRS pretty much funnels that like right to the Fed.
Yeah, or do we actually pay China? I'm actually not sure.
Well, China owns a large part of our debt along with Saudi Arabia.
But do we pay them interest? Is that?
I imagine we do, and I mean, like recent documents have come out, talking about how basically under President Obama and Hillary Clinton, they were like basically giving like 1.5 or like I don't know, I can't remember the exact number, but it was like billions to Iran every single year, and it was kind of like a secret payment, like off on we have a debt to them apparently.
Money to Iran.
Yeah.
I'm super dubious.
Which, I mean, like, the article just broke. Like, I read it a little bit earlier. I might even have it on here somewhere.
Like, because we have been, like, sanctioning the wazoo out of Iran. So we stopped the sanctions, the Iran deal. That's what that whole thing was, to kind of increase diplomatic relations. But then Trump last year, I reckon, pulled out of the Iran deal, so we started sanctioning them again. So that's kind of a way of like taking money from Iran.
Sure.
And whenever you maybe claimed that we were giving them money, that could have just been because we weren't sanctioning them at the time.
Well, and I mean, like there have been many arguments like that. Basically, a lot of the ISIS people were trained by like the Americans, and it's basically just to create an enemy for us to go over there and have this false war, and create, basically get military involvement in certain countries.
Right. Like, you can't deny that we created ISIS a little bit. Like, you go and you destabilize a country and you can ruin their infrastructure.
Bin Laden in power. Like, the Bin Laden family and Bush family have been doing oil business together, like, for over 50 years.
Yeah, it was ages ago, right?
So...
It's just crazy.
The so-called, martyr of 9/11.
I don't want to recommend, like, going to media for information or whatnot. But if you guys haven't seen the movie Vice, it's about the 2001 war in Iraq and Dick Cheney's role in it, and Dick Cheney's like puppeteering of Bush.
I've been wanting to see that movie.
It's great it's a great cinematography in it, but it's also the information. It's just
little fun fact here:
heavy.
Did you know that Bin Laden's brother actually went to UL during 9/11?
Fascinating.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, because we have one of the top engineering programs in the world here at UL. And ultimately, like, he was in school, and his brother, along with the rest of his family, was flown out of America safely.
I've heard of that.
On 9/11.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's, whom can know?
So, hey, Acadiana, you had a Bin Laden here, going to UL during,
Can a son be blamed for the crimes of his father?
Well, I mean, like, who's to say he even did it? I mean, like...
It was sad, yeah.
I mean, like, there's a lot of 9/11 stuff we could talk about. That's not necessarily... we don't have to get into all that. How about a Youngsville woman?
Ooh.
She's accused of beating her wife for washing the marijuana that she brought to Florida.
I've heard of that.
They went on vacation, and the wife washed the weed. So I guess it was a lesbian couple, I'm assuming, because it was a woman accused of beating a wife.
Right. Okay, yes, exactly. I didn't need to make a comment on that, but...
Well, I mean, I'm assuming.
I don't think it changes the story at all, if they were lesbians or not.
No, not at all, but...
She could have been, if you mix it with ice water, you can extract, THC crystals from that, and that's how you get ice water bubble hash. So, who knows? Left to interpretation. I mean...
I didn't know that.
If it was ice water, it could have been extracting something, and who knows?
So, do you think it's appropriate for like public officials, such as a judge, to make like anti-presidential comments? Because apparently in Utah, a judge was suspended for making anti-Trump comments.
Depends the role that the judge was playing in the
and
Trump.
what the specific comments were. I didn't necessarily look that far into it.
Well, who knows what the story was about as well. If it was concerning Trump, then who knows?
Well, surely. Well, and we were just looking at CNN a little while ago, and just like, it's too much. It's just like, Yeah, I can't watch this.
It's just like trigger words all over the screen, just things to get you riled up and things to get you feisty.
Well, and I mean, I'm not sure if you've ever seen any of the, even the local news. Like, that's just a script as well that all of the local news is across the country pretty much are reading, aside from your local stories.
Right. I mean, yeah, like, because, I don't know, there's
It's
things
a script.
They do global news, though, too, which is awesome. Cause, like,
And
there's
it's the
things
same exact story they read on every single channel.
Right. That I don't know, because I haven't watched a lot of news articles in other states.
I got some YouTube videos to show you. It's
YouTube.
basically like all these different local news channels,
Right.
like reading the same exact stories.
Oh, okay,
you know,
okay.
so.
Yeah, get your facts from YouTube, people.
Let's see. The administration moves to revoke transgender healthcare protection. And they're also like the Trump administration. He's like totally anti-trans. You know, like they kicked him out of the military. They removed like their anti-discriminatory rights in the workplace. They removed the health protection, like which of course President Obama had created. You know, the protection of trans rights, and Trump got rid of all of it. He's totally anti-transgender.
Wow, I was unaware of that actually.
Yeah.
In the specifics, I know that there's been a lot of heat against like trans bodybuilders now. I don't know if that's like trickle down effect of encouraging to be anti-trans.
I don't necessarily know if that's like tied with it. I mean, like the reason why he kicked him out of the military is because a lot of people were joining the military because basically the military would pay for their transition and they wouldn't really even serve because they were like going through the transition and like basically it was costing the taxpayers dollars. But that was like a very small percentage of people that were doing that.
Interesting. Yeah, it seems more of like an ideological attack rather than
he cut that off,
rather than trying to justify it with finances. Because if you're in the military, active or reserves, your number one duty is to be there whenever you're supposed to be there.
Surely.
They wouldn't let you take 8 months off for a non-emergency surgery.
Right.
I guess.
Well, unless you had a psychological, prescription to say, hey, this needs to happen, and the military paid for it. But Trump ended that. You know? So, and basically, I think he banned transgenders from the military, and now basically making it to where it's harder to get health care for them.
Dude, he's banned a lot of things.
Yeah.
He's ended the Paris Agreement. He's banned the Iran deal. I don't know. He's freelancing it right now.
And I mean, I've said this before, like, you know, under President Obama, and really in like, I guess you could say the last 20 years, like, there has been a huge rise in like the LGBT rights and like, you know, and the population as well, and like the acceptance, you know, and many like subcultures, you could say. But I hate to say it, I think it's a false sense of security, you know, that we have in this country, that eventually, like, you know, what if we get it to where like it goes back to extreme like Christian, like, you know, have you ever seen the movie V for Vendetta?
Yes, love it.
That's essentially what I'm talking about here. Is basically like it's censored speech. You know, like, you know, homosexuality is a crime kind of thing. You know, and just all of that. You know, like censoring what you eat. You know, basically the government controlled life.
Right.
Everything's, you know, filmed. You know, basically with Big Brother.
If I may. If you look at the progress, like it's easy to feel that way perhaps in this in America full stop, and in the South particularly as well. But if you look at like the broader, you know, global movement as it's getting more and more liberal and free and socialized, dare I say, but you know, it's becoming more less controlled like that. Like you take but I can't say
One
the
world
same.
government.
Right. I can't say the same for China. China's extreme. I'll give you that. Parts of Southeast Asia, extreme. Thailand
censors. A lot of people
censors.
would call America extreme.
Yeah. I mean, Thailand censors information about their monarchy. Like the new prince of Thailand is like, he's a party animal, and you know, he's been caught in Daisy Dukes with furry dogs all over him.
Kind of same as Saudi Arabia.
Right. MBS, like you can't say anything bad about the monarchy there. They don't have any government criticism or freedom of speech at all.
Which in Saudi Arabia, I mean, I do give them credit. They are trying to go, I guess you could say, more westernized, and like, hey, women can drive now. You know, like,
cheers
I mean,
that.
like, it's a small step, and like the WWE, actually, the wrestling company, they work 2 shows a year, like, which are huge shows. in Saudi Arabia, but the women still aren't allowed to wrestle.
I mean, yeah, sure, they can drive. Awesome. That sounds like a very tokenist thing to do as well.
They still don't have anywhere near the same.
Don't go outside showing your wrists or your hair,
right.
but I don't know. You can drive. I guess it's convenient. What was it? Was it Samsung? I don't want to name. Okay, I shouldn't have named names because I don't know them for sure. But a tech company did just create an app. It was Android. It definitely was Android. Created an app where it can be used to track husbands' wives. And I guess we have it in the States too, where parents can track their kids and stuff. But it was they made special advertising campaigns in Saudi Arabia
that you put in your pets. To basically have a tracking device.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't mind getting chipped, to be honest.
What if it's the mark of the beast and you can't go to heaven if you have the mark of the beast?
You believe in heaven?
I don't know. I believe in an afterlife. I mean, whatever you want to call it.
I would avoid being
even if it's another life, I think there is maybe a void in between.
I don't know. There's something, maybe. I don't know.
A lot of people say that, when they get do the DMT or whatever, that they go to the void, basically, where we were before we were born, or where we go when we die. It's this kind of beautiful space place.
I guess everything's left up to interpretation.
Surely.
No one knows. No one can name it for real. We've all just created these labels for what we think that it is.
Exactly.
I don't know. That's why you have over 2,000 religions in the world. Everyone just has a supposition.
Segue. Did you know that the Satanic Temple basically is officially recognized by the United States government as a religion? Why not? I mean, it's another religion.
Isn't that in our Constitution? Freedom of religion?
But
Can't you?
I'd say, I guess as far as members, you probably have to have a certain amount of members and be around so many years to, make it a requirement, because, then everybody would just be hey, this is my religion. It's the religion of Nayday,
I mean, I think you can do that. Look at Mormons.
So I basically can get tax-free exemption, if I just say, hey, I'm a religion.
You can get tax-free exemption
I'm a
anyway if you open a nonprofit. All you have to do is just fill out the paperwork. Messiah complex.
Yeah.
There it is. There's a mental institute in Europe for people specifically for the Messiah complex. And it's where you think that you're the Messiah.
I'm the Messiah.
So all the crazy people are locked into a asylum together, all thinking that they're God.
Well, everybody's getting all up in arms about the abortion issue. How about this one as a funny little headline? Eggs are to be legally classified as chicken in Alabama restaurants. Think about that one for a second.
Oh.
Because, hey, the eggs are alive.
They're embryos,
right.
but they're pre-fertilized.
Yeah.
For the most part, unless you get that wonky one sometimes.
So that was I think an Onion article type thing.
Oh.
Let's see. Minimum wage would be $33 today if it had grown like Wall Street bonuses since 1985. So basically, Wall Street bonuses have skyrocketed. Not everybody else.
That one. There's always that meme that says put Wall Street on or put Congress on minimum wage and see how quickly things change.
All right, make them have the same health care they make the rest of Americans have.
Right. Make them work the same number of years that Americans have to retire.
No
if
doubt.
You do 2 terms in Congress, 8 years or so, you get that same wage for every day for the rest of your life.
Well, we definitely don't need that. They have career politicians. We need term limits. New ideas rather than career politicians, because the career politicians don't serve the people. They're just there to make.
Are you talking about local government or?
Well, local government. I think everybody should have term limits.
Don't we have?
Not Congress and.
It's 8 years, I reckon. Oh, shiza.
Unlimited.
Okay. Check
Unlimited.
That one.
So they have career politicians.
Yeah.
That pretty much, they're bought and paid for.
Or my brother loves this idea, but make it a public service. Make the people that really want to. You shouldn't make money off serving the government, should you? Put the people who are super passionate about it and just give them the opportunity to do it.
Which you had something on this one. Chinese billionaire Jack Ma I'm not sure if I said that right, but he says that the United States wastes trillion on warfare rather than infrastructure.
Infrastructure. I mean, yeah, it's a fact. America probably is lacking on infrastructure heavily.
I mean, like pipes breaking everywhere because it's like they're hundreds of years old. Well, 100, give or take 20 years,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we haven't really been,
Yeah.
looking at our infrastructure.
I mean, right. Well, infrastructure for
we waste
one.
so much money in this country, basically, is what we're getting at.
Yeah, I reckon so. But I think overall, like, we kind of were talking about it a little bit earlier.
Give
and
us some
so-
of your facts
Well,
that you have
well, just
here.
like back to like the discretionary spending, or just like the amount we spend on defense overall is 15% of our budget.
Mhm.
And seriously, if you took 1% of that, you could probably pay for like a sixth of the country's population for free education. So it's like, I don't know, what is more important here?
Well, because a lot of it boils down to the fact that this story right here, almost half of United States families can't afford basic things like rent and food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, basically the economic trends are that, like, we are being divided in the wealth gaps. You know, like these CEOs, these Wall Street people, they're making like a lot of money, and it's just not the trickle down effect.
No, I don't think trickle down economics works.
Well, because
Like,
we got greedy people at
like,
the top.
how come-
And which is, one reason why I don't think we can ever trust socialism, because it's a slippery slope to communism. Because when you got greedy people at the top that control the money, they're going to take all of it, and everybody else at the bottom is in bread lines, waiting for food.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think we've talked about this yet, but Elizabeth Warren had a really awesome tax, or it was going to be alleviating about 50 million Americans, which is about a sixth of the population, 50 million Americans student loan debt. It would cost $1.75 trillion. How she planned on doing this was taxing anybody who made over $50 billion a year, taxing them 3% income tax. And then anybody who made over $100 billion a year, you would tax them 1%. So, or maybe those were flipped, and you tax more richer people more. But
does anybody really need more than $1 billion a year to live? Nobody.
Once you
does.
reach over supplementing your basic needs, money doesn't make you happier. Like, there's psychological tests to prove it.
Oh, well, sure. It makes it easier to survive sometimes,
But do you know how many people in the States make more than $50 billion a year?
How many?
206.
Not
so
too many.
206 people could help 50 million Americans, move on with their lives.
But a
and
lot
not
of
have
those
to worry
people
about college
probably
debt.
have like the best accountants in the world that can basically get them tax write-offs with all of their offshore accounts and their nonprofit organizations to where they don't even end up paying taxes.
Well, yeah, a lot of corporate tax.
So let's get into some of the food industry here. We got Doritos releasing rainbow-colored chips to celebrate LGBT pride.
Love it. Cute. I'd eat them.
Yeah.
I used to,
But are they the same company as Nestle, which basically they say that requiring to report the use of slave labor is going to have to cost consumers more money. So, like, hey, we're doing some slave labor. Leave us alone, or it's going to cost you more money if we're going to have to actually hire people.
You just have to hire people. I think, are they just paying
Pay
for
people?
inspections? Like, inspections? Like, because you would hope that they're not using slave labor, right?
Apparently they are.
Well, yeah, then pay more for your freaking Doritos, people, or your
your Nestle chocolates.
chocolate bars, water bottles. They do water a lot.
Well, of course. It's a major Swiss corporation, which, of course, you have a thing with plastic. What's your deal with plastic?
It sucks, actually. I'm a big fan of countries and states. California just banned all single-use plastic bags and straws. For the simple reason is that it's not necessary. It's really not. I bring my own coffee cup everywhere. They actually double cupped my beer today, or
with
water.
Double plastic.
And so I filled one up with water. But, like, why do you need 2 cups? It's just...
And where does all that end up, usually?
I mean, I would like to think that most of it ends up in at least the trash. At least the
Surely.
trash.
But ultimately, where does the trash end up?
In a landfill.
And then,
Not to mention heaps in the ocean.
No doubt.
Not that much goes towards recycling. And, I mean, the least you can do is recycle. That's the very least you can do. Why just drink this and then throw it away? Like, where is away? If you throw something away, it still goes somewhere.
Sure.
India, I was reading today, they're going to fill up their landfills. They have one of the biggest populations per square kilometer or mile, whatever they use, in the world. And their landfills are going to fill up within the next 10 years. And then what? Ship it away?
Well, and they say like that basically the ratio of plastic to plankton in the last 10 years, like in the ocean, has gone, from 6 to 1 to like 60 to 1, and basically, and the fish that we eat, are consuming it, and it's basically killing our biology.
It kills whales. I think you find more whales these days with plastic bags in their stomach, flip-flops,
So a lot
bottles.
of companies are doing stuff about that, basically making it to where I don't know, cans might be edible, for fish or something like that.
Or just compostable stuff.
Adidas is making shoes out of plastic from the ocean. So, basically, and they have a lot of things that can go and try and scoop it out, so we got to do something.
We are doing something. I believe technology will, it
But right now, as far as, recycling in Louisiana, it's very hard. Curbside recycling, it hardly exists.
It doesn't exist.
Less than 50% of Americans have access to curbside recycling.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you could recycle.
But even then, in a lot of the cases, recycling is the least you can do. It's going to take more than that, because think about even the transportation that it takes to,
Getting, reusable bottles, and
just
not buying all that stuff.
Recycling also takes a huge amount of energy. You have to melt all of this stuff down, blend it up, reform it. Those are factories. It's manufacturing.
Basically, just don't use it.
If you can eliminate it, hey, it's not super difficult, except whenever you live in a place where they double cup your beer.
Right.
But
so let's see. Lamar Odom. He's a basketball player. I guess he was married to a Kardashian for a little bit. I don't know about this number, but he said he spent more than $100 million on drugs. And he is somebody actually that the media kind of just gawks over as far as one of the celebrities and just
it sounds like a party. Here's the thing: you're Lamar Odom. You have heaps of friends. You have heaps of parties, probably.
And
you're the richest guy in the room. You're gonna buy everyone else their drugs, and
we actually had a Lamar Odom story last week. And it was completely on a different page. Basically, he wore a prosthetic penis during the Olympics in order to take a drug test.
Oh.
Because obviously,
that confirms it then.
Yeah. So, drug addict Lamar Odom.
How do you get caught?
Hero.
That's embarrassing.
Well, he didn't get caught. He passed the drug test with the prosthetic penis.
He just admitted to it afterwards?
After the fact.
Dude, ballsy.
So energy drinks are horrible for you.
Yeah, knew that.
Apparently, due to a study, they say that it increases your risk of a stroke by 500%.
That's a lot of percents.
Yep. It leads to an irregular heartbeat, which makes your heartbeat sore.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people who drink those for breakfast, right?
But, yeah. Even a cup of coffee on an empty stomach in the morning. Oh, man. That gets you hyperactive.
Surely.
Your body starts burning calories.
I'm addicted to coffee in the morning.
Yep, me too.
So usually if I ever teach a little drug lesson, has anybody in here ever done drugs before? And I'm everybody should be raising their hand, because
caffeine.
Sugar, caffeine, coffee, Tylenol, NyQuil, all that is some drugs. Anything that alters your state of consciousness, other than food.
Sugar, they say, is addicting as cocaine is. It lights up the same amount of neurotransmitters in your brain that makes you crave it more.
Surely. Do we want to get into the abortion issue?
I guess you gotta, right?
We can maybe get into it later. Let's move on. How about this? I thought a good one. The seafood bill that basically it's an ID bill in Louisiana that's going to require restaurants to list where the origin country of where the crawfish or shrimp came from. So if they say Louisiana crawfish, but it's really some Chinese crawfish, they'll have to disclose.
Yeah, funny thing to get your hopes up about, I guess. I didn't think that we really cared too much about I don't get the vibe that we care too much about buying local. If that was the case, then you would have a hell of a lot more farmers markets around, you know?
Well, we got a
You
couple.
would have a locally produced stamp, at least.
Right.
You would have more handicraft stores. All you see is strip malls and massive, you know, like grocery stores and, I don't know, chained restaurants.
We see a lot of that, and it's really hard to make a restaurant succeed in Lafayette, if you did not know.
Is it? This has more restaurants per capita than
Exactly.
like America overall.
Too much competition.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
You know, there's tons of good food, not to mention all your major chains that people frequent. You know, so
I think they're doing really
it's
good.
really hard. And unless you have like a phenomenal idea and you know, good marketing plan, all that good stuff, you know, it's hard to make a restaurant succeed in Lafayette.
Man, well, they're killing it. Whoever is doing it, it's all delicious.
Let's see. CNN says that white deaths are outpacing white births by more than 50%, and by 2045, the United States will be less than half Caucasian.
Praise be. I'm looking forward to that day, actually, where everyone is just like one common shade of skin tone, and we're all very culturally aligned.
I guess everybody from every color could just like, you know, have sex together until we're all the same color, maybe.
Yes, yes, with consent and
just one worldwide interracial orgy that basically leads to a bunch of mocha babies.
Dude, it's happening. I mean, like, good on it. Like, we have too much skin cancer in our genes.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily think that like white people are that evil. Like,
skin cancer sucks.
Well, yeah, I mean, just like, I don't know. It just seems like that white people get a bad rap in the media nowadays, you know? And, I mean, I haven't done anything to hurt anybody. I didn't own any slaves, you know?
Have you read Guns, Germs, and Steel? Anyone? It's a great book to read. It explains how, it's by Jared Diamond, and it explains how Anglo-Saxon or European-ish people came to dominate the world. And it's because guns, germs, and steel. You know, we had good resources. We developed intricate societies because we could feed more people. Like, yeah, I don't know. If you have good numbers, then, and you have a way to feed your people, and you have a way to trade, and you have guns and diseases, you know, it's kind of inevitable that those people will eventually control most of the rest of the world. And it's not right, but at least today we're a lot more peaceful and happier and better off overall than we were in the past. And more connected, I so to speak as well. I say to speak as well.
Are we? Well, sometimes I find the more connected we are online, the more disconnected we are in person.
Depends on the user, hey?
Depends on the user, always.
Because to me, it brings people
There's
together.
There's no blanket statements on higher thought.
Right. Social media helps bring people together as well. It's going to be the way that people stay connected. There's only people that I talk to over Facebook.
Yeah.
There's only people that I talk to over Snapchat. There's, you know, like, if I want to communicate with my little 18-year-old cousins, like, I'm going to use Snapchat. It's what they use. It's if you're sitting there wasting your life away on it and doing it before bed and stuff, then, I don't know, you're easily stimulated.
Yeah, well, speaking of being easily stimulated, this elderly couple accidentally burned down their house during a sex game involving a World War II flamethrower. The 96-year-old called in and was basically saying how, like, the grandpa was doing the MI and the vajayjay like he had always done.
Dude,
you know,
that's hot.
Basically ended up,
Literally.
like, accidentally activating the flamethrower and burning down the house.
Well, they like to take risks, I'll tell you that.
Oh, I hope if I make it to 96 years old that I'm still doing like crazy stuff like that, you know, and having a good sex life.
Yep.
Which I don't know, how long does good sex last?
That's a question.
What are your thoughts, Acadiana? Do you think males and females have different answers on that?
I don't know. I don't know, because I feel like if you're with a good partner, then they know, like, let's just say girls don't come as easily as guys, as on average. So a good partner, a good dude partner is going to know that it's going to take enough time for everyone to reach that state. And so hopefully they would agree as well that it takes the same amount of time.
Well, what is that recommended time? Like that you would need at least, as most females would need at least that 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes.
It could take 1 minute,
and it might depend on the size of the boat in the ocean.
Yeah, it depends what you're into, I guess.
Sure.
Like
everybody's different.
It depends on the boat in the ocean.
Right.
The size of the boat in the ocein.
Be.
I reckon not. It
or
depends how good the sails are.
How good the sails are. Okay.
But I don't know. It really just depends what you're into, I guess. If you want a hot quickie in, the airport bathroom, then don't know. Then you're going for speed. But if you want passionate lovemaking, then it could go for 8 hours.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah.
So.
Depends on the journey.
But the good sex, and does that include foreplay? Because that adds extra time as well. But I mean,
that would include the time would include foreplay.
I would say your average time, throughout the week, I'm work today, we got to go to bed tonight, but hey, still get a little.
At least 30 minutes. Maybe about 30 minutes. Around 30 minutes.
I would say that's a fair amount of time.
You're giving yourself time to really get in the zone, to really be consciously aware of what's going on, rather than just using it as a quick release at the end of the day.
No.
30 minutes, you can silent your brain, becomes a meditative kind of thing.
Well, and sure, everybody can get satisfied as well.
Right, totally.
And if one person goes before the other person, then let me finish out.
Right, exactly.
This is a good friend. This is a good friend. Yeah. Let's see. Facebook? No, I don't want to do that. World Health Organization adds gaming disorder as a listed disease. Let me file my disability.
There you go.
Play some games.
Dude, get paid to play video games. There you go. That's a thing.
Yeah.
Disorder, maybe, perhaps. It can be escapism. It can be a mental health thing if you think about it.
You can definitely get addicted to it.
Yeah, you can get addicted to it. It's an alternate reality. Your sense of confidence is different in a video game versus not in a video game, perhaps.
You're an alternate person.
Yeah, but it also is a way to connect people together as well. And parents-kid bonding as well. A lot of that is based off video games now.
Sure.
And my little cousin, or my nephew, all he asks me, Sven, you want to watch me play Minecraft? You want to watch me play Fortnite? He wants me to watch him play video games.
Not really, but I will.
Right, yeah. Well, you do what they like to do. We also go hiking, camping, get outside.
Get outside.
Yeah, but people who play video games are typically better neurosurgeons and doctors.
Sure.
Because you got those hand-eye coordination.
You could definitely agree with that. But they also added burnout as a disorder as well. And
unmotivated?
Well, just too much work and not enough balance. Just your burnout.
Okay. Too much work, not enough balance.
Yeah. Well, not enough play, or you're just maybe you're overwhelmed, or you've been doing the same thing.
This is not relating to video games, right?
No, this is different.
Okay, got it. Burnout.
A different
I think
disorder.
that would come from not being truly happy.
Yeah, well, or just doing the same thing repetitively over and over and over, and just I can't do this anymore.
Dude, I hear it.
Even in a relationship,
Yeah, you got it. You ask us on average, elderly people who have been together forever, the common answers of what's the secret? How do you stay together? It's keep doing new things together and never stop having sex. Those are the two things that get people through, elderly relationships, or
Which, speaking of which, recently the recent numbers have shown that people are getting married later, and they're actually having less divorce.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Actually.
Well, based because you get married later because you try to build your finances before you try to get married and have kids.
And you know who you are.
Well, possibly,
and stuff a bit more as well.
Yeah.
I think younger marriages.
A lot of it's financial.
Right.
Just like abortions are financial. The number one reason people have abortions. I can't afford a baby. So, and half of Americans are struggling. We can't make the next check. We can't pay our rent next month if we don't have a job.
my reasonings for not having kids would definitely be financial and
Surely.
selfishness as well. There's a lot of things I want to do that you can't do if you have kids, and
and a lot of that, when you control the finances, you control everything. All of that can be brought back to our Federal Reserve that controls interest rates and loans, and these big corporations making a shit ton of money, and it's not going to the people, and the banks own more than half of the houses in this country, and our forefathers, Thomas Jefferson, warned us against that shit. If we ever have a central bank that is controls our wealth through inflation and deflation, then they're basically going to own the land that we conquered,
Right. But if you're, super libertarian, anti-federal government, how do you propose to make corporations fair? It's built, by having capitalism. Full stop. You can't say what a corporation can and can't do.
Anti-monopoly type system, and that does not exist anymore. We have shit tons of monopolies. Pardon my French.
No, right. Yeah. So, but you need regulations then. Anti-monopoly.
Facebook, for instance, with their ability to choose what is right and wrong, what is appropriate, what is inappropriate news. That's too much power for one company to have. Because a lot of people get their news from that.
Right.
So
read your news.
And so it's I don't know. I don't even know how important these politicians are. I almost think they're just like little puppets that are actors doing political theater. But who's going to be the 2020 Democratic candidate? And we know Trump will be probably the Republican candidate. Joe Biden apparently is the front runner, but he said to a 10-year-old, "I bet you're as bright as you are good looking." And that's just been his thing. He just can't stop being a creepster.
Something creepy.
I've even seen T-shirts for Joe Biden that basically have the hands, around them, and that's what he's known for, is being an ultimate creepster that rubs on little girls and stuff, and they're like, ah.
You know what? It's so much about not necessarily a popularity contest, but who the DNC views is going to be the biggest,
Well, and Bernie Sanders, I guess you could argue, is the other front runner. And
yeah, that would be sweet. He just got screwed last time, and everyone thinks
by
he's
his own
too
party.
old.
By his own party.
And that never got punished or anything.
Did you know that, in his 30 years in Congress, he's only gotten 4 bills passed?
Bernie?
Yeah, and most of them relate to renaming post offices.
He did a lot with McCain about giving VAs a lot more funding.
Sure.
So he passed a bill through with that. But something as radical as Bernie is going, it's going to be a slow uphill battle. But you see so many more radical ideas appearing, especially in Democratic candidates.
No doubt.
Elizabeth Warren's and what's that guy's name? No, okay, moving
Passing it on.
But yeah.
How about Britain's first trans family reveals their son? I guess it was a male to female and female to male family, and their son, who's 5, is also transitioning.
5.
5.
You can't do it at 5, surely, right?
Apparently they can. And that's kind of the part of the thing is they're trying to get it to where the kids can do it at an earlier age,
right?
Because once they go through puberty, then you have broad shoulders and
Well, yeah, so they're trying to get them before puberty to get them on the hormone disruptors.
And basically, kids can make their own choices of what they choose their gender to be, and they have a lot of influences through the cartoons and the media and stuff that they see, and it's I don't know if kids should be kind of picking that kind of stuff, irreversible kind of lifelong thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you know who you are at 5,
sure.
really.
Not everybody, at least.
I don't know. The same can be said as I have a lot of gay friends who knew that they were gay at the age of 5. So
yeah,
I mean
it happens, but
yeah.
Did you know that it only takes 6 minutes for a dog to die in a hot car?
How hot?
Don't leave your dog in the car.
Okay, moral of the story. Yep.
Moral of the story.
Yep, don't do it.
A 92-year-old woman shot her 72-year-old son because she didn't want to go to the nursing home. Screw you, I'm not going. You promised me you wouldn't go.
America. I love it.
Yep. And they were having a shootout with each other.
No.
Just about, yeah. Scientists claim they'll have a cure for cancer within a year. will only like rich people be able to afford it. I don't know. A lot of people are. That's kind of the trend. Like a lot of these pharmaceutical companies are getting sued, for the opioid crisis, and like a lot of states are like making a cap for the like the insulin shots and whatnot. For like $100 a month. And like they're suing those companies.
Yeah.
So I mean, like hopefully we do get some better regulation on the pharmaceutical companies. Is what I'm getting.
That would be pretty sweet. That would be super sweet. I think America pays 700 times, on average, 700 times the cost for our pharmaceuticals than Europe does.
Or even Canada,
Then I couldn't speak for Canada. Don't know the
Sure.
statistic, but like, it's crazy that people make money off of keeping people sick, or attempting to help them get better.
Right.
There shouldn't be that much profit margin on it, but that's a federal government regulating thing that. Those are your options.
Well, I find that they just like when we put the stuff in the federal government in charge of stuff, like they're not very efficient. So I don't know, less power for them. But anyways,
We're huge.
Savannah, you did a great job. We're about running out of time here. Did you have fun?
Yeah, surely.
It was a good time.
Surely.
It was a good time.
I don't
So,
remember half
Katie
of what
Anna,
happened.
We appreciate you watching. Till the next time, we got
Booyah.
Savi.
Savvy.